Hey, sorry there, didn't know you were there, but, do you have a minute to talk about my top 5 Zelda games of all time? Hello, viewers, and welcome to another exciting episode of Matt's Minutes. Today, like I said, we're going to be talking about my top 5 Zelda video games of all time. Now, these are really hard for me to do, so I ended up having to devise a ranking system each one was on a scale of 0 to 10. And I believe the categories, which will be on screen below, were the dungeons, the story, the music, and the impact. So, what I did is I scored each game based off those categories on a scale of 0 to 10, every single game in the franchise up until now, and just went, alright, let's see where everything falls. And I was shocked with the results. So shocked, in fact, that I had to make a video. So for the interest of time, what I'm going to do for each game is I'm just going to put the scores down here below so you can see for themselves, and I'll kind of touch on them a little bit, but it's just going to be easier if I do it this way. So, without any further ado, let's get into it. Starting at number 5, please don't unclick this video. Please hear me out. This is my video, not yours, and that is Ocarina of Time. Ocarina of Time story, iconic. One of the best in the Zelda franchise. Music, iconic. One of the best in the Zelda franchise, and led to many great songs after that. The dungeons, forget the water temple. I don't like the water temple. I really don't like the water temple. But, there's a few that I'm not that fond of in Ocarina of Time, like either water temples I don't like. The forest temple, a lot of people love that one, and the bosses are the best part of it to me. Outside of that, it's not a bad dungeon, it's just, it didn't strike well for my taste, really. I do love it and have played it multiple times, but it's like, I find that I don't know, I didn't connect as well with that one. So the dungeons ranked a little bit lower for me. And the impact it had on me personally, it didn't really have all that much because it was one of the later Zelda games that I played. Probably about 5 years after I got into the series, I would say. And I got into the series in the middle of high school. So I didn't play it all that much as when a lot of other people did it on the N64. Otherwise, it would probably have a greater impact on me. So again, a lot of times I find with Zelda games, it might be that when you play them determines the impact that they have on you, and that determines your personal favorite. So just something to keep in mind. Since I didn't play Ocarina until much later, it didn't have as good of an impact on me. So just something to keep in mind. But the scores for all 5 of these are very, very close. So even though Ocarina is number 5, it still scored amazingly high. Alright guys, coming in at number 4 is one that a few years ago never would have even been on this list, but now it is, and I love it so much, and that is A Link to the Past. I honestly thought when I was doing this list that A Link Between Worlds was going to beat A Link to the Past, but when I started actually sitting down and scoring how I felt about it, there was no contest which one was better, and that to me was A Link to the Past. It's really hard to beat a classic, and A Link to the Past does so many good things. The thing that I feel like it's kind of lacking, only when compared to other Zelda games, is a story. It does have one, but compared to others where they have better consoles that can tell more stories, the story hasn't really held up as well over time. Plus, there's a lot of stuff that it really doesn't get into that is associated that things like Hyrule Historia or other things have filled in the gaps between Ocarina and A Link to the Past. Because there was definitely a Zelda timeline back then, right? Yeah, in the Super Nintendo days. But what it makes up for is in story. it more than makes up for in everything else. The music is iconic and led to many great things that things like Majora's Mask, Ocarina, Breath of the Wild, all these others have taken things from A Link to the Past and just kind of did them, but A Link to the Past started it and did a really, really good job. The items are fun, the gameplay is hard but fun, the dungeons are iconic and they're fun too. They're a little bit somewhat outdated, but I mean, we're talking about a game that's how old here? Are we really that surprised? But they're still fun, and the game holds up after all this time. I think that shows you how great this game is. This game is iconic, and the Zelda series would be nowhere near what it was if it wasn't for A Link to the Past, establishing many footholds that the series has come to know and build upon, really. So I feel it's appropriate to give A Link to the Past the spot that it has. Alright guys, coming in at number 3, we have The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. Yes, I know it beat out Ocarina. Yes, I know it beat out A Link to the Past. But, again, my list. And, to be honest, it really didn't by much. I honestly, I thought Skyward Sword was going to be number 5. But until I sat down and scored it. And really the thing that helped Skyward Sword out, I just remember a lot of things from that game. A lot has stuck out in my mind. Not that Ocarina and Link to the Past haven't, but it's like I can visually think of so many different places in Skyward Sword that just stick out, and I'm like, oh yeah, that was beautiful. Oh yeah, the music for that scene was very well orchestrated. Yes, and there's some things with the plot where it feels like just go here, go here, go here, now go back to here, go back to there, you know, kind of some fetch quests here and there. But let's not forget, it's also the origin of Link's tunic, gives more information about the Triforce, why everyone gets reincarnated, where the goddess is, the Master Sword. I mean, it's the origin, and your boy loves an origin story. And man, that just really sinks in. And I know a lot of people are going to be saying, well, it's because the new HD remake came out, but I actually completed this list before the HD remake came out, and now I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to get around to the video, make sure that everything is where I think it needs to be. And yeah, I still think Skyward Sword deserves the place at where it is, now including the HD remake, which is absolutely phenomenal. The items you get in it are just amazing. I mean, you start the game off with the beetle and you use it throughout the entire game. And that's one of my favorite items in all of Zelda. So, yeah, Skyward Sword is a great game that I feel a lot of people overlook, but I think it's a solid Zelda game. Alright guys, coming in at number 2, we have a game that I hated for years. Years. But I've grown to love significantly, and that is Majora's Mask. Can I tell you, I would tell people don't ever play Majora's Mask all throughout high school. I said it was trash, it's not a Zelda game, doesn't feel like a Zelda game, the 3-day mechanic sucks. Why would they have that in there? You lose all your items, that's stupid. Link doesn't feel like Link. I don't know what it is. This area, you're not even in Hyrule, you're in Termina. None of this clicks well. It doesn't feel like a Zelda game. And then but keep in mind, I didn't even make it to the first dungeon before I made that opinion. And then one day in college, I said, I'm gonna try it again. I hate this game, but I need to try it again. And man, was I wrong. If I ever told you not to play Majora's Mask, I am so sorry. I changed my mind. Go play it. I know there are people out there that I did tell that to, so if you're watching, please go play Majora's Mask. Don't listen to me back then. I didn't know what I was talking about. I was dumb. Majora's Mask is amazing. I love the 3-day mechanic and the way that it brings about all this craziness and you kind of have to plan some things out, and it adds an element of puzzle solving that is iconic to The Legend of Zelda. The story is absolutely dark and phenomenal, and there's just seeing all these characters interact with each other and how they were responding to this imminent threat, knowing that they're Some of them, in denial about whether they're going to die. Some of them have already died. Some of them know they're going to die. I mean, it's beautiful how they all do, how everything works together, and how Link saves all these people in the game. And even the story behind Majora and Skull Kid. I mean, Majora is a phenomenal boss and just antagonist. He's only in one game and has had such an impact on the series. I love Majora's Mask, and that cannot be understated. So go play Majora's Mask if you haven't already. It's dark, but I guarantee you'll love it and you won't be disappointed. Alright guys, on to number 1. Twilight Princess. It was the first real game that I played, and honestly is still one of my favorite video games of all time. I play this game at least once a year, and the impact, this is the game that got me into The Legend of Zelda, so I don't feel the impact can really be understated. I love Twilight Princess. The story is phenomenal. The dungeons are mostly pretty good. There's a couple here and there that when I'm playing back through it, I'm like the water temple. Seeing a theme here? I don't know. I'm just not that big of a fan of the water temple in Twilight Princess. I feel like it's too long, and I don't know. I just don't like it all that much. And every single time, there's no way in heck it's going to be avoided. I get lost in there at some point. Never at the same point twice. I just get lost and forget what I'm supposed to be doing. But the others are pretty solid. Now, are the bosses too easy? Yeah. Yes, they are. But we look past that. They're still fun. It's just they're easy. No Zelda game is perfect, let's be real. Not yet, anyway. I'm still leaving some room for some future installments. But Twilight Princess is absolutely a beautiful game. And Midna is by far one of the better, if not the best, companion that Link has ever had. And I love that she develops throughout the game as much as Link does, if not more, honestly. And man, it's just a solid, good game. The music is phenomenal. I can't think of a single track I don't like from Twilight Princess. Not that there's really any from any of the others either, but Twilight Princess, I can, I never get to a point in the game where I'm like, I don't like the music going into this. And that's saying a lot for how often I've played it. So, Twilight Princess, all the way, to me, as of right now, is the best Zelda game. Why did and a lot of people are probably really confused why I left off Breath of the Wild. Don't think I don't love Breath of the Wild. Don't think I don't love any of the Zelda games that didn't make it on this list. Like I said, this was a hard list to make. This was a very hard list. And if I didn't have this ranking system, I really think the list would have been very different if I were to have just sat down and picked, okay, which one would be my top 5? Versus if I'm going to do it with data, which one comes out to be my top 5. So if that's a list that you guys would be interested in, cool. Let me know in the comment section down below. What is your favorite Zelda game or games? Please leave that in the comments as well so that I can read it and we can just talk about Zelda because it's awesome. If you like this video, please give it a like. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel to stay up to date on all the newest content that is coming your way. We have a very special video coming out very soon, and I cannot wait to share it with you guys. So thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I will see you guys in 2.